Field Manual, Deep Cover Counter-Subversion. This table of contents provides the structure for a comprehensive field manual, integrating the initial strategic framework with advanced techniques for physical tradecraft, psychological warfare, infighting, counter-subversion, ideological threats, and legal warfare. Manual Deep Cover Counter-Subversion, DCCS Section I. Operational Assessment and Legend Construction 1.0 Initial Mission Categorization 1.1 Institutional Capture Analysis, Total versus Partial 1.2 Intelligence Target Classification, Policy vs. Technical Data 1.3 Defining the Role of the Operator, Mitigation versus Extraction 2.0 The Unassailable Legend, The Cover 2.1 The Doctrine of the Weaponized Grey. Engineered Competence and Conformity 2.1.2 Emotional Null and Compartmentalization 2.2 Financial Vulnerability Management 2.2.1 Closing the Bribery Gap, Financial, Virtual Asset Management, Crypto OPSEC 2.2.3 Managing Debt Leverage and Patronage. Adversary Vetting Bypass, The Pivot 3.1 Ideological Vulnerability and the Faith Test Bypass 3.2 Creation of Ideological Ambiguity and Ambiguity, Profiling 3.3 Vetting by Proxies and Non-Official Validation Section II. Ascent, Access and Human Terrain, Strategic Career Pathing and Ascent 4.1 Target Roles, The Choke Points of Control, CRO Audit Focus. 4.2 The Three-Step Ascent Strategy, Entry Pivot. Target 5.0 Mapping the Adversary Structure 5.1 Identification of the Foreign Directorate, Formal Agents 5.1 The Unqualified Promotion Trail 5.1.2 The Anomalous Transaction and Financial Profiling 5.2 Mapping the Subversive Control, Aligned Assets 5.2 Mapping Cultural and Ethnic Enclaves 5.2.2 Patronage Network Tracing, and the Hidden Curriculum 5.2.3 Secret Society and Fraternal Vetting Protocols 6.0 Social Engineering 4. Identifying Unwitting Assets and Witting Sources 6.2 The Principle of Reciprocity and Social Debt 6.3 Recruitment and Handling of Internal Assets Section III. Clandestine OPSEC and Counter-Subversion 7.0 Physical Tradecraft and TSCM 7.1 Physical Red Teaming and Bypass Methods 7.2 Technical Surveillance Countermeasures, TSCM Protocols 7.3 Dead Drops and Secure Meeting. Digital Lateral Movement and Forensics 8.1 Network Traffic and Log Forensics, Identifying Control Nodes 8.2 Malware and Implants, Signatureless Persistence Mechanisms 8.3 Encryption Key Management and Key Escrow 8.4 Air-Gap Data Transfer Methods, Acoustic/Magnetic 9.0 Counter-Subversion Tactics for Aligned Threats 9.1 Ideological Inoculation and Discrediting the Core Belief 9.2 Fracturing Consensus through Doctrine and Moral Wounds 9.3 Targeted Moral Wounds and the Sacrilege Act Section IV. PSYOPS and Internal Destabilization. Infighting 10.0 Generating Infighting and Paranoia 10.1 The Controlled Leak and Attribution Shift Technique 10.2 Fictional Competitive Data Feeds and Resource Stranglehold 10.3 Weaponizing HR and Audit Mechanisms 10.3.1 Weaponizing Performance, Audit Initiation on Rivals via CRO Role 10.4 The Ghost Handler Scenario and Digital Echoes of Compromise 11.0 Strategic Neutralization and Power. Reassertion 11.1 Targeting the Control Choke Points and Failsafe Systems 11.2 Defense against Infighting Blowback 11.2.1 The Layer of Plausible Denial Architect 11.2.2 The Cultivation of a Shield Target 11.3 Triggering a Forced Restructure, The Ultimate Destabilization, Section V. Pivot, Exfiltration, and Legal Warfare 12.0 The Trigger and Emergency Protocol 12.1 Capture Indicators, The Pivot Point 12.1 Weaponized Vetting 12.1.2 The Silent Sweep 12.1.3 The Ring of Steel 12.2 Rules of Engagement, ROW, for Force Protection 12.3 Proof of Life and Distress Signals 13 Exfiltration and Evasion, E and E13, 1 Surveillance Detection Routes SDRs, and Covert Travel 13.2 Emergency Exfiltration Logistics, and Prepared Cache 13.3 Digital Burn and Digital False Flag Operations, 13.4 Interrogation Resistance Training and Crisis Negotiation, 14.0 The Irrefutable Case and Legal Warfare 14.1 The Three Pillars of Proof, Policy, Technical, Financial 14.2 Preparation of Sealed Indictments and Dossiers, 14.3 Sanctions and Asset Freeze Trigger, Vetting of External Receivers and Coordination Plan, 14.5 the post-exposure narrative 14.5.1 attribution and proof of state involvement, 14.5.2 focus on betrayal of shared values versus simple treason section VI. Oversight and contingency planning, 15.0 mission drift and resilience, 15.1 psychological decompression and OPSEC fatigue, 15.2 internal review and deconfliction board, protocols 15.3 ethical boundary management, Align 15.4 collateral damage assessment and minimization 16.0 contingency and red cell. Red cell modeling of adversary response 16.2 family targeting vulnerabilities and mitigation 16.3 cleanup and digital housekeeping protocol, the burn notice. Section I, operational assessment and legend construction 1.0 initial mission categorization. The initiation of any deep cover counter-subversion, DCCS, operation begins not with action, but with rigorous threat assessment. The primary function of this initial phase is to objectively analyze the operational environment and define the mission's core objectives and constraints. Misdiagnosis at this stage guarantees catastrophic failure later. The assessment must yield definitive answers to three questions. What is the nature of the institutional capture? What is the specific intelligence required? What is the operator's primary tactical function? 1. Institutional capture analysis, total versus partial. The level of adversarial control dictates the viability of the ascent strategy versus the necessity of immediate clandestine operations. This analysis determines whether the operator can use legitimate authority or must rely purely on covert tradecraft. Partial institutional capture, viability for ascent. This state exists when the hostile foreign power, the adversary, has secured significant influence and operational control, but has not achieved absolute authority. Indicators. Remaining structural integrity exists. External regulators, a vocal independent board minority, untouched legal counsel, or powerful internal factions still adhere to the original institution's mandate. The adversary's control is pervasive but not yet ironclad. Strategic implication. The operator can initiate the ascent strategy. Legitimate authority, once gained, can be leveraged to delay, audit, misdirect, or legally counter the adversary's influence. The remaining internal checks and balances offer tactical opportunities for resistance. Risk profile, medium-high. The operator must navigate the political landscape carefully, using bureaucracy as both a tool and a shield. Total institutional capture, mandate for clandestine operations. This state exists when the hostile power has weaponized every critical control function of the organization against internal dissent or external intrusion. Indicators, HR, IT, security, internal audit, legal, and executive management are all commanded by the adversary's agents, formal or aligned. All internal rules and systems are traps designed to flag potential threats. Traditional checks and balances are defunct. Strategic implication. Ascent is a fatal error. The operator must adopt the clandestine operations strategy immediately. The mission shifts to a high-risk, short-term data extraction model, as using legitimate channels will only lead to the weaponized vetting capture indicator. Risk profile, extreme. Survival depends entirely on stealth, minimal digital footprint, and a rapid exfiltration. Intelligence target classification, policy versus technical data. The nature of the required intelligence determines the necessary access point, a position of authority versus a technical network choke point. Target classification A, policy and strategy, ascent required. This intelligence category includes information that is only created, discussed, or enacted at the highest executive levels. Examples: future budget allocations, long-term strategic plans for asset seizure, classified foreign government communications, high-level diplomatic agreements or systematic institutional sabotage blueprints. Access requirement requires a position of significant legitimate authority, e.g., Chief Risk Officer, VP of Treasury. This mandate favors the ascent strategy, provided the institutional capture is assessed as partial. Operational value provides the why, the long-term intent and future moves of the hostile power, allowing for external political and economic counterplanning. Target classification B, technical and immediate clandestine required. This intelligence category consists of operational data essential for a rapid countercoup or immediate legal action. Examples: network topologies, encryption keys, agent identities, covert data siphoning mechanisms, digital backdoors or real-time communication logs. Access requirement requires covert, digital lateral movement, often accessible via low-level IT or compliance choke points, or through physical entry and bugging operations. This mandate favors clandestine operations or digital red teaming methods. Operational value provides the how, the mechanism of control, and the specific human assets that must be neutralized during the final internal coup 1-3, defining the role of the operator. Mitigation versus extraction. The final categorization defines the operator's endgame objective, which in turn dictates the acceptable level of risk. Role A, influence and mitigation. The long game, the objective is to utilize the authority of a high-access office to slow, sabotage, or misdirect the hostile power's plans from within, buying time for external intervention. Strategy requires prolonged exposure and sustained use of legitimate office authority. Applicable under partial institutional capture and policy strategy target classification, success metric, successful delay of a critical asset transfer, misdirection of a systemic audit, or the creation of significant non-attributable operational friction for the adversary. The goal is disruption, not just data retrieval. Role B, extraction and survival, the short game. The objective is solely to acquire the required intelligence data and safely exfiltrate before the cover is confirmed as compromised. Strategy requires minimal digital footprint, maximum stealth, and a rapid, pre-planned egress route. The operator must never confirm the adversary's presence to the enemy, applicable under total institutional capture or technical immediate target classification. Success metric, the safe retrieval of the agent and the complete, irrefutable evidence package detailing the extent of the foreign capture, regardless of any short-term impact on the captured. The unassailable legend, the cover. The legend is the foundation of the DCCS operation. It is not merely a false identity. It is a meticulously engineered persona designed to thrive within the adversarial environment while being immune to standard hostile vetting procedures. The legend must be defensible against both forensic analysis and ideological profiling. 2-1 The doctrine of the weaponized grey man. The grey man is the operational ideal. An individual whose existence is so unremarkable and professionally plausible that they attract no special attention, yet who possesses the specific skills necessary to perform the mission. The operator must consciously suppress any traits that mark them as exceptional or anomalous. 2-1 Engineered competence and conformity. The operator's professional profile must be beyond reproach, but never flashy. Competence, the agent must be genuinely skilled enough to excel at their cover role. Failure to meet performance expectations will draw unwanted scrutiny from both honest management and hostile agents looking for weakness. Conformity, the grey man must align with the institutional culture. This involves subtle imitation of office behavior, dress code, social patterns, and political discourse. This ensures the operator is seen as a trustworthy insider by the adversary's aligned assets. Avoidance of genius, never solve a problem in a way that suggests unique brilliance or non-standard training. Always use the most obvious, standardized, and bureaucratically defensible solution, even if it is inefficient. Exceptionalism is a capture indicator. 2-1 Emotional null and compartmentalization. Deep cover requires the operator to manage the intense psychological strain of duality, preventing fatigue and accidental OPSEC breaches. Emotional null. The operator must cultivate an emotional baseline that is perceived as stable, predictable, and moderately pleasant, but devoid of deep passion or volatility. Strong emotions, anger, passionate dissent, or excessive enthusiasm are easily exploited by psychological vetting teams. Compartmentalization. This is the core psychological defense. The operator must create absolute mental separation between the cover identity, the legend, and the operational self, the operator. The memory of the true identity and mission parameters must be stored in a mentally protected area, only accessed during dedicated OPSEC windows or crisis. OPSEC fatigue mitigation. The operator must schedule mandatory periods of psychological decompression, section 15.1, to temporarily shed the cover persona, even if only in a completely secure, isolated location, to prevent the blurring of identities that leads to critical financial vulnerability management. The adversary's first move in vetting is often financial and biographical. The legend must be protected from both coercion, traditional bribery, blackmail, and patronage, indebtedness to the hostile network. 2-1 Closing the bribery gap, financial immunity. The operator must not have a financial profile that makes them an easy target for inducement or coercion. Financial immunity. The operator's declared income and assets must align perfectly with their position, eliminating any gap that could be filled by a hostile payment. They must have no significant, easily exploitable debts, addictions, or dependents requiring large, immediate cash injections. Clean digital trail. All financial history, including personal accounts, credit cards, and digital wallets tied to the legend, must be clean, routine, and easily verifiable through standard banking channels. Any anomalous transaction is a red flag. 222 Virtual asset management, crypto OPSEC. Non-traditional assets must be handled with extreme care, as they introduce new vectors for compromise. Operational isolation. Any cryptocurrency or virtual asset used for operational funding, e.g., dead drop payments, emergency cash, must be completely isolated from the legend's personal digital presence. This means using separate hardware, separate networks, and wallets with zero transactional history linked to the legend. Steganographic key storage. Physical or digital encryption keys for operational wallets should be secured using steganographic techniques, e.g., hidden within benign digital files or encoded in a personal journal, rather than standard physical hiding spots. 223 Managing debt leverage and patronage bailouts. This addresses the vulnerability specific to ideologically aligned subversion, Section 5, 2. Eliminate social debt. The operator must ensure they have accepted no significant unpaid favors or career-advancing patronage from known or suspected hostile agents. Accepting help creates a bond of loyalty that can be exploited by the aligned network. Proactive debt management. If a moderate debt or financial distress occurs, the operator must resolve it using external, non-institutional means, e.g., a high-interest commercial loan, rather than allowing the aligned network to offer a bailout. A bailout is not a bribe. It is an investment in the operator's loyalty. 30 Adversary vetting bypass, the pivot. As the operator achieves success and begins the ascent phase, the scrutiny shifts from superficial background checks to deep, psychological and ideological vetting. The hostile powers aligned agents use non-standard belief-based testing, often subtle and social, to filter out ideological threats. This section outlines the defense against this soft vetting. 3.1 Ideological vulnerability, and the faith test bypass aligned assets. Those connected by ethnic, religious, or secret society ties often employ non-official faith tests to gauge true loyalty to their underlying cause. These tests are based on shared doctrine, not job performance, probing questions. These are seemingly innocuous social or professional inquiries that subtly expose the operator's allegiance. Examples include specific references to religious tenets, historical injustices favored by the hostile narrative, or minor cultural grievances. The operator must pre-plan convincing answers and historical context for every predictable test. The controlled display of sympathy. The operator must position the legend as a source of rational empathy toward the hostile cause, without ever expressing outright, zealous adherence. They can acknowledge the historical basis for the hostile group's grievances, but must frame it within a professional, neutral context, e.g., I understand the historical sensitivity, but legally we must focus on the current framework. Doctrine avoidance. If the hostile alignment is religious or fraternal, the operator must avoid deep, technical discussions of doctrine. The grey man's response should always be respectful but vague, deferring to the wisdom or seniority of the aligned asset in that. Creation of ideological ambiguity and ambiguity profiling the ideal defense is not adopting the hostile ideology, but creating a personal history that is so complex and contradictory that the adversary cannot definitively categorize the operator's true allegiance. Contradictory affiliations. The legend's history must include verifiable involvement in diverse, sometimes opposing, political, social, or educational groups. This ambiguity profile makes binary classification difficult, e.g., supporting a nationalistic cause in one context while promoting open trade in another. The rational advocate. When advocating for a hostile policy, the operator must justify it using the institution's official, benign language, e.g., this new procurement policy is a cost-saving measure, not this benefits our homeland. The rationale must be professional and economic, masking the true ideological motive. Cultivating the moderate persona. Positioning the operator as a moderate, unifying figure within the affiliated demographic. This earns trust from less zealous members, while making the core aligned group view the operator as a useful bridge, rather than a threat 3-3 vetting by proxies and non-official validation. Hostile organizations often delegate the final loyalty check to a highly trusted member who is not formally involved in security or HR. This non-official validation is often the true test, identifying the proxy vetter. These are often the most senior or respected aligned assets within the institution. They may appear to be purely social contacts, e.g., a mentor, a senior dinner partner, a golf buddy. The operator must use social network analysis to map who holds true, non-official influence over the directorate. The validation moment. The proxy vetter may initiate an informal conversation that serves as the final clearance, e.g., an unrecorded late-night discussion, a request for a personal favor. The operator's response must align with the engineered competence and conformity rule, 211, and show respect for the proxy vetter's ideological status. External endorsement. The legend's biography must be structured to include a verifiable, positive endorsement from a key figure outside the target institution, but within the hostile power's sphere of influence, e.g., a former professor known for strong alignment, or a social contact who once worked for an affiliated foreign entity. This external validation provides an extra layer of non-institutional credibility. Section II. Ascent, access, and human terrain mapping. For strategic career pathing and ascent, this section addresses the practical application of the ascent strategy, Role A, Section 1.3, focusing on how the operator maneuvers through the institutional hierarchy to gain the necessary leverage and access. Ascent is a controlled, high-risk political campaign where every promotion must be justifiable to the adversary's vetting system for one target roles. The choke points of control, CRO audit focus. The operator must not seek roles of direct execution, e.g. head of sales, but rather roles of oversight, information, and prevention. These roles provide the power to paralyze the adversary's operations through legitimate bureaucratic means. Chief Risk Officer, CRO, or Deputy CRO. This is the ideal target role. The CRO's function is to identify, measure, and mitigate all institutional risk. This position grants legitimate access to all high-level policy discussions, policy strategy target 1.2, and the authority to initiate audits, freeze projects, or demand excessive documentation from adversarial units under the guise of risk mitigation. The CRO is the ultimate bureaucratic choke point. Head of Internal Audit or Compliance. Audit grants unquestioned access to financial logs, internal communications, and network data necessary for data collection. Technical target 1.2. The operator can use audit mechanisms to target hostile agents by demanding impossible compliance standards, leading to their administrative neutralization. Section 10(3)(2). Chief of Staff to an Executive. This role provides proximity to executive decision-making policy target and grants visibility into the political landscape, including which executives are aligned, which are formal agents, and which are neutral. It is an excellent pivot role. Section 4(2)(4). To the three-step ascent strategy, entry, pivot, target, ascent must be phased to avoid the unqualified promotion, red flag. Section 511. Each phase requires the operator to establish genuine merit and build political capital before the next leap. Phase 1, entry and establishment, the Grey Man Foundation. Goal, establish the legend's competence and conformity, 211 in a low-visibility, high-volume operational role, e.g. mid-level analyst, department manager. Tactics, achieve verifiable, non-critical successes. Focus on building relationships with neutral and low-level aligned assets. Gather ground-level intelligence on the institution's real operational flow, bypassing the official chart, timeframe, minimum 12-18 months. Phase 2, pivot and political capital, the trust-building phase. Goal, secure a Chief of Staff or Deputy Head of X role that provides executive proximity but lacks final decision-making power. This tests the adversary's tolerance. Tactics, utilize engineered competence to solve a visible, non-critical problem that benefits an aligned asset without compromising the mission. This creates a legitimate social debt, 6.2 in the operator's favor, justifying the promotion to the adversary's vetting proxies. 3. Timeframe, 6-12 months. Phase 3, target acquisition, the choke point. Goal, acquire the primary target role, e.g. CRO Head of Audit 4.1. This is the final and riskiest move. Tactics, the operator must only make this move when a vacancy arises that can be justified as an urgent necessity or a political appeasement. Use the accumulated political capital and external endorsement, 3.3, to push past final vetting resistance. Once in position, the operator immediately activates the mitigation protocol, role A 1.3. 5. Mapping the adversary structure. The operator must recognize that the hostile takeover involves two distinct groups that interact to form the capture mechanism: the foreign directorate, formal agents, and the subversive control, aligned assets. Correct identification is critical, as the tactical response to a formal agent differs significantly from that required for an aligned asset. 5.1 Identification of the foreign directorate, formal agents. These are professionally deployed intelligence officers or foreign state employees operating under deep cover. They form the command and control element of the capture. They are identifiable through anomalies in their institutional history and finances that reflect external intervention. 5.1.1 The unqualified promotion trail. Formal agents are installed by external pressure, not internal merit. Their career path violates the principles of engineered competence. 2.1.1 Indicators. The agent achieves rapid, often unprecedented promotion that cannot be logically justified by their demonstrable competence, performance metrics, or institutional political capital. Look for roles that were created specifically for them, or sudden lateral moves that bypass traditional hierarchy to place them directly at a choke point of control. 4.1 This indicates that their authority is derived from an external power structure. Operational action. Flag these individuals immediately as primary hard targets for administrative neutralization. 10.3 Or immediate intelligence gathering. 5.1.2 The anomalous transaction and financial profiling. While formal agents receive a legitimate cover salary, their true operational funding is external. This leaves detectable traces in financial records. Indicators. Look for sudden, unexplained cash infusions, large cryptocurrency transfers from wallets with no clear provenance, or payments from shell corporations with obscure parent companies, if the operator has audit finance access. Specifically, anomalous expense reports, such as frequent travel to non-business critical international cities that coincide with known adversarial intelligence hubs, are major red flags. Operational action. Use the financial profile to trace the external source of control. This can provide crucial evidence of foreign state involvement. 14.1 5.2 Mapping the subversive control, aligned assets. These are internal employees, often long-serving citizens, who are ideologically sympathetic to the hostile narrative or are bound by deep social, ethnic, or philosophical loyalties. They form the cultural and operational muscle of the capture. Their power is often social and non-attributable. 5.2.1 Mapping cultural and ethnic enclaves. The adversary frequently leverages existing diaspora, ethnic, or cultural organizations as a low-risk layer of operational support, communication, and recruitment. Indicators. Map internal networks based on non-professional affiliations, e.g. specific social clubs, foreign language study groups, or cultural associations, that exhibit excessive internal loyalty and exclusion of non-members. These networks often act as a shield, providing non-attributable social cover for the flow of hostile propaganda and intelligence. 5.2.2 Patronage network tracing, and the hidden curriculum. The subversive control maintains its influence through a system of favors and political appointments that bypass legitimate HR structures. Patronage tracing. Trace lines of promotion and hiring that violate meritocratic principles. Who hired the unqualified promotion? 5.1.1 Who vouched for them? The network of reciprocal favors defines the political geography of the subversive control. The hidden curriculum. This is the unspoken set of ideological, social, or philosophical adherence tests required for promotion within the aligned network. The operator must discern this curriculum through observation, and by mapping which candidates failed to advance despite high merit, indicating their failure to pass a silent, ideological test. 5.2.3 Secret society and fraternal vetting. Protocols. Some adversary operations exploit pre-existing non-corporate loyalties rooted in secret societies, fraternal organizations, or specific highly selective alumni networks. Indicators. Look for shared symbols, obscure shared vocabulary, or disproportionate representation of members from a specific, small organization in high-access roles. These groups often serve as the platform for the faith tests. 3.1 and are the source of the proxy vettors. 3.3 Identifying meeting locations or specific recurring social events can reveal the structural nodes of the subversive control. Section III, Clandestine OPSEC and Counter-Subversion, 7.0 Physical Tradecraft, and TSC-min a Total Institutional Capture Scenario. The operator must assume all official channels of communication and access are compromised by the adversary's directorate. 5.1. Physical tradecraft, stealth, entry, and counter-surveillance becomes the primary method for intelligence gathering. Extraction Role B. 1.3 and secure. Physical red teaming and bypass methods. The operator must continuously challenge and exploit the institutional security infrastructure to identify vulnerabilities for covert entry and asset movement. The piggyback and the tailgate. This is the lowest tech, highest risk bypass. The operator exploits human complacency by entering secure areas immediately behind an authorized person. Tactic. The distraction and carry. Approach the access point while pretending to struggle with a bulky or overflowing item, e.g., a large box, a coffee tray with papers. The authorized asset's social conditioning to help or avoid collision will often compel them to hold the door open, bypassing the need for a badge swipe. Lock bypasses non-destructive entry. If administrative access is required during off hours, the operator must use non-destructive entry methods that leave no forensic trail, shimming, utilizing a thin, flexible piece of material, e.g., a segment of mylar or thin plastic, to force the locking bolt back on internal spring-latch doors. This is highly effective against low-security office doors, but useless against deadbolts or high-security electronic strikes. Master Key A. Master Key Analysis, the Janitor Protocol. Janitorial or maintenance keys are often master keys for entire floors. The operator should prioritize profiling these assets, 6.1, to determine their schedules and emotional vulnerabilities, using social debt, 6.2, to gain temporary access to their equipment or carts, which may contain the critical access tool. Covert staging and cache creation. The operator must establish microcaches for operational equipment, e.g., TSCM gear, digital storage devices, within the secure perimeter. Approved disguise. Caches must be hidden in areas that appear legitimately inaccessible or professionally proprietary. Examples include, inside the chassis of an old, abandoned server in the comms room, requires a head of audit pretext to enter, 4.1, or inside an unused fireproof safe that appears decommissioned. 7.2 Technical Surveillance Countermeasures, TSCM protocols. The primary threat to the DCCS operator is the adversary's technical apparatus, specifically listening devices, hidden cameras, and electronic signal interception. TSCM is mandatory for all off-network conversations. The nonlinear sweep, acoustic and RF. Before every secure meeting or sensitive digital operation, the operator must conduct a TSCM sweep that goes beyond consumer-grade bug detectors. RF spectrum analysis. Use a dedicated wideband radio frequency, RF, detector to sweep the entire usable spectrum from 10 MHz to 6 GHz. The focus is on identifying anomalous, persistent low-power signals that fall outside the expected institutional Wi-Fi or cellular bands. Thermal imaging, the heat anomaly. Covert microphones and cameras require power and generate heat. Use a small handheld thermal imaging camera to scan walls, ceiling tiles, furniture, and electrical outlets for small, localized thermal spikes that indicate an active electronic device. The Faraday Protocol for portable devices. Any portable electronic device that is not essential for the mission, e.g., personal cell phone, smartwatch, is an immediate liability. Off-network state. All personal communication devices must be powered entirely off and placed within a Faraday bag or container prior to entering any secure operational area. The bag prevents signal bleed and GPS tracking, eliminating the risk of remote activation. The white noise doctrine, verbal countermeasures. If electronic sweep methods are limited or inconclusive, the operator must use acoustic disruption to defeat potential unseen recording devices. Pink noise generator. Employ a small, discrete pink noise generator during sensitive conversations. Pink noise masks the human voice frequency range more effectively and less noticeably than white noise. The generator must be placed on the table, not hidden, to appear as a benign ambient device. Water flow. In extremis, conduct sensitive conversations near running water, e.g., a sink in a bathroom or a running fountain. The acoustic clutter masks the recording's clarity, complicating later transcription and voice recognition analysis. 7.3 Dead drops and secure meeting protocols. Communication with the external handlers, the operator's support element, must be non-attributable and resilient to physical and electronic surveillance. Dead drop selection, the three pillars. A viable dead drop must meet three criteria. 1. Low attractiveness. It must be in a location that a casual observer, surveillance team, or street cleaner would ignore, e.g., inside an industrial utility box, behind an unmaintained civic plaque, under a specific loose cobblestone. 2. High cover. The operator must have a plausible, mundane cover story for being in the vicinity of the drop, even if observed, e.g., checking a utility meter, taking a highly specific landscape photo. 3. Surveillance blind spots. The drop must be located outside the natural coverage of municipal CCTV and have physical obstructions, trees, building corners that provide momentary blindness during deployment and retrieval. Secure meeting protocols, the conversation of equals. Physical meetings with an external handler are the riskiest form of communication and must be kept extremely rare. OSDR surveillance detection route. Before the meeting, the operator must execute a preplanned surveillance detection route, SDR. This route involves intentional anomalous changes in travel, e.g., 3 separate subway line changes, a sudden doubling back, 2 different forms of public transport, and a stop at a retail location to observe the surroundings. If the SDR detects persistent surveillance, the meeting is aborted immediately via a prearranged distress signal, 12.3. The public neutrality rule. Meetings must occur in a publicly neutral space, e.g., a crowded park, a museum, a busy market. This provides acoustic cover and forces any hostile surveillance team to compromise their own cover by attempting to close the distance. The nonverbal sign-off. The conversation must contain a pre-agreed nonverbal sign-off gesture, e.g., adjusting a tie twice, holding a specific newspaper in a certain hand. This confirms to the handler that the operator is not under duress and has not been compromised into a forced meeting, the silent sweep, 12.1.2. 8. Digital lateral movement and forensics. In a total institutional capture scenario, 1.1, the corporate network must be treated as hostile ground. The Adversary's Directorate 5.1 has likely compromised the Security Operations Center (SOC) and deployed forensic logging tools. Digital clandestine operations, Role B 1.3, therefore require extreme caution, prioritizing signatureless movement and air-gapped exfiltration. 8.1 Network traffic and log forensics, identifying control nodes. The operator must move across the network without leaving a forensic trail that violates the baseline of the legend's typical activity. Every digital action must be justifiable under the legend's professional duties. The baseline evasion doctrine. The most effective stealth is conformity. The operator must first analyze the legend's standard network activity, time of login, files accessed, remote login patterns. Covert activity must be temporally camouflaged by executing it during the noise floor, periods of highest network activity, e.g. mid-morning peak, where anomalous data is statistically less likely to trigger heuristics. The blind spot, times when the SOC team is historically at minimum staffing, e.g. 300:05:00 local time. Log poisoning and cloaking. For critical high-risk access, e.g. to the adversary's staging server, the operator must proactively manage log risk. The benign noise layer. Before accessing the target, perform a simultaneous, high volume of benign activity across non-critical network segments, e.g., accessing 20 shared folders related to old, routine reports. This dilutes the significance of the single malicious log entry and forces the SOC analyst to expend time sifting through false flags. Registry timestamp management. Advanced operators must employ methods to adjust the timestamps on specific system artifacts, e.g., prefetch files, registry keys, left behind by covert tools, aligning them with a time of expected legitimate network maintenance or a common system-wide process. Identifying control nodes, the anomalous heartbeat. The adversary's primary method for institutional data siphoning will be through a single or small cluster of control nodes, servers, dedicated workstations. These nodes will exhibit an anomalous heartbeat that is traceable. Indicator. consistent, scheduled, high-volume outbound encrypted traffic to an external IP address that is not on the corporate whitelist. This traffic often occurs during the blind spot, 300.0500. Operational action. The operator must use Internal Audit Compliance Authority, 4.1, to flag this control node for excessive resource consumption, or a shadow IT audit, to gain physical or logical access to its network configuration and extract the destination IP and encryption protocols. 8.2 Malware and implants, signatureless persistence mechanisms. Traditional executable malware is easily detected by modern endpoint detection and response (EDR) systems. Persistence must be achieved through fileless and signatureless methods that leverage the inherent trust placed in whitelisted operating system tools. Fileless persistence via WMI. The operator must prioritize using the Windows Management Instrumentation (WMI) service to achieve persistence. WMI allows for the creation of permanent event subscriptions that trigger code execution when a defined event occurs, e.g., system startup, user logon. Tactic. The malicious code fragment, a simple PowerShell or VBS payload, is stored only in a WMI object instance, never written to the disk as an executable file. This completely evades file signature scanning. The zero footprint macro. For accessing systems where WMI access is limited, leverage whitelisted scripting engines that are necessary for business operations. Tactic. Embed the payload within a VBA macro in a benign corporate document, e.g., an obsolete budget spreadsheet. The macro is designed to execute only when specific non-obvious conditions are met, e.g., the local machine time is after 2200 and the user is the legend. The macro then calls a legitimate system utility, PowerShell, exe with base 64 encoded instructions, executing the payload entirely in memory. Staged and fragmented deployment. The full covert toolset must never be deployed or stored in one piece. Tactic. The necessary components, payload, key fragments, execution script, are stored separately, often in benign files, user configuration settings, or non-indexed registry hives. The operator's main execution script only calls these disparate fragments to assemble and execute the malicious code directly in RAM, destroying the fragments from memory immediately after execution. 8.3 Encryption key management and key escrow. The security of extracted intelligence, target classification B, 1.2, rests entirely on the management of the encryption keys. Keys must be handled outside of digital systems as much as possible to defeat hostile IT forensics. Episodic encryption, session key destruction. Never reuse a key for multiple data batches. Tactic. Utilize a high-entropy one-time session key, e.g. AES-256, for encrypting the intelligence package. Immediately after successful encryption and transfer to the storage device, the session key must be securely wiped from the operator's machine, using specific RAM wiping software or a full power cycle. The session key is then encrypted using the external master key and transferred via a physical medium, e.g. dead drop, to the handler. Cryptographic steganography. The encrypted data package itself must be disguised to appear as normal network traffic or a benign file. Tactic. After encrypting the payload, embed the resulting encrypted binary data into a large, innocuous file type, such as a company training video, MP4, a high-resolution corporate logo image, JPG, or a lossless audio file, FLAC. This is done by modifying the least significant bits of the file data. The resulting steganographic file is then moved across the network as a legitimate file transfer, masking the presence of the dense, high-entropy encrypted data blob from traffic analysis tools. Key escrow, the human physical vault. The master key required to decrypt the session key must never be stored digitally within the target institution's network or the operator's physical perimeter. Tactic. The master key, a 64-character or longer passphrase, must be memorized by the operator and or provided to the external handler, keymaster, via a physical dead drop, 7.3, using a one-time pad or a physical cipher to ensure non-electronic transfer. This makes the decryption process an entirely human factor, immune to digital compromise. 8.4 Air-gap data transfer methods, acoustic magnetic. When critical intelligence is acquired on a truly air-gapped machine, a machine intentionally disconnected from all networks, or a high-security internal server, traditional network transfer is impossible. The operator must rely on side-channel leakage methods for transfer. Acoustic exfiltration, the high-frequency squeal. This method exploits the machine's internal or external speaker to transmit data via modulated sound waves outside the human hearing range, ultrasound, typically above 18 kHz. Requirement. The air-gapped machine requires a software-defined transmitter, modulating the data into audio signals, and the receiving device, held in close proximity, e.g. in the operator's pocket, requires a highly sensitive microphone and a matching demodulation script. Operational note. This technique is slow, low bandwidth, but entirely bypasses network and radio monitoring hardware, making it ideal for transferring small, critical pieces of data like encryption keys or agent contact details. Magnetic/inductive data transfer. This exploits the electromagnetic field generated by a machine's CPU or bus to leak data. Tactic. Specialized software modulates data into specific computational patterns that result in predictable changes in the machine's electromagnetic signature. A receiving device, a small, highly sensitive inductive coil and amplifier, is placed near the target machine's chassis to pick up this signal. Constraint. This method requires near-physical contact and is typically used in short bursts to exfiltrate only the most sensitive data fragments, as external electromagnetic interference can easily corrupt the signal. This is a low-bandwidth, extremely high-stealth transfer method suitable for the final extraction of the session key, 8.3. Optical/LED pulsing the flicker. For maximum simplicity, this method uses the machine's hard drive activity light, HDD LED, to transmit data via Morse code or a proprietary pulsing protocol. Tactic. Software flashes the LED at high speed to encode the data. The receiver is a camera or photo sensor held in close proximity. This is a manual, low-speed method, but requires no specialized audio hardware and can often be achieved using the Legend's authorized equipment. 9 Counter-Subversion tactics for aligned threats. The subversive control, 5.2, composed of ideologically bound aligned assets, cannot be dismantled by targeting infrastructure or policy alone. Their unity derives from a shared narrative of legitimacy and moral superiority. Counter-subversion efforts must target this narrative, introducing contradictions that generate irreconcilable cognitive dissonance and fracture the internal consensus. 9.1 Ideological inoculation and discrediting the core belief. This phase aims to subtly introduce verifiable data that contradicts the adversary's foundational narrative, without the contradiction appearing to originate from the operator, the legend. The operator acts as a neutral filter, simply passing information. The calculated leak, verifiable contradiction. Use intelligence gathered in Section 1.2, policy or technical data, to expose a verifiable action by the adversary's directorate that directly violates a central historical tenet of the aligned assets, core ideology. Tactic. If the ideology claims to protect a national asset, the leak must demonstrate the directorate's plan to sell or subvert that asset for foreign profit. This evidence is delivered to an unwitting asset, 6.1, with strong known ideological alignment, ensuring the asset disseminates the information out of genuine moral outrage, not compromise. The hypocrisy loop. Exploit the inherent conflict between the directorate, formal agents 5.1, who are pragmatic and professional, and the subversive control, aligned assets 5.2, who are idealists. Tactic. Frame the directorate's administrative actions, such as firing an ideologically pure but incompetent aligned asset, as evidence that the directorate views the subversive control not as partners, but as disposable ideological cover. This inoculation shifts the focus from external enemies to internal betrayal. Narrative neutralization. Once the contradiction is exposed, the operator, acting as the neutral grey man, 2.1, must express rational confusion, not condemnation. This reinforces the legitimacy of the contradiction and forces the aligned assets to reconcile the data themselves. 9.2 Fracturing consensus through doctrine and moral wounds. Once ideological dissonance is established, the operator must amplify the internal conflict by framing the directorate's actions as a violation of the hostile group's own internal laws and ethics doctrine. This creates a civil war between the purists and the pragmatists within the subversive control. The purity test gambit: use the most zealous, dogmatic, and uncompromising texts or history of the hostile ideology as a basis for criticizing the current directorate's strategy. O-tactic: through anonymous internal communication channels or strategically vague public statements, justifiable under the legend's cover role, raise questions about whether the directorate's means, e.g., using corruption, foreign funding, or manipulation, violate the movement's historic ends, e.g., purity, sacrifice, honor. The creation of the moral wound: this tactic targets the emotional core of the aligned network. The operator maneuvers the directorate into taking an action against a symbolic, beloved, or historically significant member of the subversive control. O-tactic: if an elderly, highly respected, but non-critical aligned asset is politically inconvenient, the operator should ensure the directorate's administrative removal of that asset is done in the most public and humiliating manner possible, thereby generating a collective moral wound that is difficult to heal. This forces the entire network to choose between loyalty to the current leadership, the directorate, and loyalty to the movement's martyrs, the removed asset. Weaponizing the neutral: identify aligned assets who are loyal but fundamentally decent people, the moderates. They become the target of the moral wound. Their subsequent internal dissent or public criticism, driven by genuine shock, provides credible, non-attributable evidence of the directorate's moral failure. 9.3 Targeted moral wounds and the Sacrilege Act. This is the terminal phase of ideological subversion, designed to create an irreconcilable permanent split and delegitimize the directorate's spiritual authority. The Sacrilege Act is a high-risk maneuver executed immediately prior to planned extraction. Role B, 1.3. Selection of the sacrificial symbol: identify a physical object, ritual, or location that holds deep, unifying, and sacred meaning for the entire aligned asset network. This symbol's power must be religious, ancestral, or historical, making its desecration an act of profound, irrecoverable betrayal. Example: a historical building used as a secret meeting place, a physical artifact representing the movement's founding, or a unique, well-known ritual performed annually. The Sacrilege Act, proximate violation: the operator must arrange for the directorate to be proximately responsible for the violation of the sacrificial symbol. The operator does not commit the act, but orchestrates the political and logistical conditions that make it happen. O-tactic: if the symbol is a building, the operator in the CRO audit role, 4.1, drafts a memo detailing a security risk or code violation at the location, forcing the directorate's formal agent to issue the order for its temporary closure, or ideally its demolition. The act must appear to be cold, bureaucratic betrayal by the directorate, shattering the faith of the aligned assets. The narrative frame and final leverage: the operator's final action before extraction is to ensure the narrative frame is correctly applied. The message disseminated internally must be: the directorate cares more about procedural compliance and foreign orders than about the sacred symbols of our own people. This act is designed to trigger mass, immediate defection of the moderate subversive control, creating a political collapse that distracts from the operator's extraction. Section IV, PSYOPS and internal destabilization. 10. Generating infighting and paranoia. The objective of this phase is to move beyond mere ideological dissent, Section 9, and introduce pervasive, non-attributable chaos. The goal is to make the directorate, formal agents, distrust the subversive control, aligned assets, and vice versa, leading to operational paralysis as resources are diverted to internal witch hunts. 10. 1. The controlled leak and attribution shift technique. This tactic uses the principle of plausible accusation to force the directorate to expend resources hunting a phantom traitor among its own senior ranks, rather than focusing on the operator. High-value target HVT selection. The operator identifies 2 or 3 senior targets, ideally, 1 formal agent 5.1, and 1 high-ranking aligned asset 5.2, who possess exclusive access to the same critical classified document, e.g., a strategic 5-year plan. The calculated leak. The operator covertly steals the document and releases a fragmented, sensitive piece of it onto a compromised, low-visibility platform, e.g., an internal anonymous forum, a minor financial blog. The leak must be just detailed enough to confirm its authenticity to the adversary's leadership. Attribution shift, the core of the tactic. Before the leak is discovered, the operator must utilize file-less persistence methods, 8.2 or minor physical tradecraft, 7.1, to create false forensic evidence pointing toward one of the HVTs. Digital tactic. Use the HVT's credentials gained via social debt, 6.2 or malware implants, 8.2, to briefly copy the document to a non-standard location on their network drive before deleting it, leaving a detectable log entry for the copy operation, but no log for the deletion. The resulting audit will confirm the HVT touched the sensitive file immediately before the leak, suggesting they are the source. Effect. The directorate, seeking to protect its interests, initiates an immediate internal investigation focused on the HVT, consuming their political capital and operational focus. 10.2 Fictional competitive data feeds and resource stranglehold. This tactic weaponizes the institution's performance review systems to create a zero-sum conflict between allied factions, guaranteeing mutual destruction over resources. Fictional data generation. The operator, leveraging the authority of the CRO audit role, 4.1, generates internal performance reports that are technically correct but strategically misleading. The report highlights two key factions, e.g., North Division led by Directorate A and South Division led by Aligned Asset B. The misdirection. The operator's report must show that one faction, North Division, is drastically outperforming the other based on a strategically chosen, narrow metric, e.g., compliance with obscure foreign regulatory code, while ignoring the true metrics, e.g., profitability. Resource stranglehold. The CRO role is then used to enforce a legitimate resource stranglehold on the underperforming faction, South Division. Action. The operator issues an official mandate, citing the false data, to reallocate budget, reassign competent staff, or freeze essential IT upgrades from the South Division to the North Division, framed as a necessary measure for institutional efficiency and risk mitigation. Effect. Aligned Asset B, South Division, will correctly perceive the resource loss as an attack, but due to the official documentation, will blame Directorate A, North Division, for leveraging the data to steal their resources. This generates active official infighting, memos, formal complaints, executive arguments that further distracts the hostile leadership. 10.3 Weaponizing HR and audit mechanisms. Bureaucracy is the perfect non-attributable weapon. Any action taken by the operator in the CRO audit role is viewed by the adversary as a legitimate internal process, forcing them to defend their targets using the institution's own rules. 10.3.1 Weaponizing performance reviews. Target selection. Subversive control members who are essential but possess low political resilience, or formal agents who have committed minor, documented procedural errors. The career kill shot the neutral review. The operator must avoid termination. Termination can rally support for the target. Instead, the operator, acting as a final reviewer for HR, ensures the target receives an irrefutable meets expectations or adequate performance rating. Effect. In a competitive high-stakes hostile environment, this review is a death sentence. It nullifies the target's political capital, makes them ineligible for future high-level appointments, and forces them into a stagnant, non-influential role, all without providing grounds for appeal. The target is neutralized by being deemed average and politically useless to the adversary. 10.3.2 Audit initiation on rivals via CRO. Target high-level formal agents, 5.1, who are too powerful to remove via performance reviews. The paralysis audit. The operator uses the CRO's authority, 4.1, to initiate an internal audit on the target's most critical operational area for a minor, legitimate, non-criminal procedural flaw, e.g., incomplete documentation of a 2021 financial transaction, a slight variance in a compliance record. Goal. The audit's purpose is not discovery but paralysis. The operator imposes impossible demands for documentation, staff interviews, and external verification, consuming the target's entire time and focus. Effect. The target is effectively removed from the command structure for the duration of the audit, and their political standing is severely degraded by the perception that their unit is under investigation, regardless of the findings. The investigation itself is the punishment. 10.4 The Ghost Handler Scenario and Digital Echoes of Compromise. This advanced tactic introduces an invisible, phantom third-party intelligence threat, generating existential paranoia that forces the hostile power to collapse its operational perimeter inwards. Creation of the digital echo. The operator utilizes air-gap data transfer methods, 8.4, or a short-lived signatureless implant, 8.2, to deploy a single, untraceable communication on the target's network that appears to be successful handler-to-agent contact from an unidentified, highly competent external intelligence service. The message content, the proof of success. The message must be cryptic but must contain one or two pieces of highly classified intelligence that the hostile power knows was just stolen from them. Example, package received. Agent use a generic non-existent call sign like Echo 4, confirmed successful. The specific recently stolen plan name is now compromised. Proceed to dormant state. New threat actor ID confirmed. The narrative implication. 1. The message proves that a third party is successfully operating deep cover inside their institution. 2. The third party's successful extraction of recent intelligence proves that one of the adversary's own high-value targets, HVTs, is a double agent. Effect: the directorate, unable to trace the ghost handler, is forced to assume that its vetting protocols 3 have failed and one of its own senior members is turned. This triggers a massive, frantic, and entirely misdirected internal purge and security lockdown, further accelerating the paralysis and self-destruction initiated in 10.1 and 10.2. 11. Strategic neutralization and power reassertion. This phase is the transition from covert destabilization, Section 10, to overt, strategically managed power reassertion. The operator utilizes the manufactured chaos, the internal purges, paranoia, and resource battles to justify an emergency takeover of critical infrastructure. This is the ascent strategy's highest-risk maneuver, where the operator moves from the grey man to the decisive, stabilizing authority figure. 11.1 Targeting the control choke points and failsafe systems. As the internal conflict escalates, the adversary's directorate, formal agents, will be frantically trying to seal the perceived internal security breaches, the controlled leak, the ghost handler. The operator, acting as the neutral high-level authority CRO audit, must use this panic as the pretext for legitimate seizure of the very systems the adversary relies on for control. The seizure protocol, the security upgrade mandate. The operator initiates a mandatory emergency directive, fully documented and justified by the ghost handler scenario, 10.4, under the guise of preventing further external compromise. 1. Seizure of forensic logging, the audit trail lockdown. The operator issues an immediate order freezing access to the primary security operations center, SOC, log servers, citing the need to prevent the ghost handler from erasing their digital traces. This effectively stops the directorate from being able to track the operator's current actions. The operator gains exclusive access to this data, isolating the adversary's real-time counterintelligence capabilities. 2. Choke point isolation, targeting IT security leadership. The operator flags the current head of IT security, often a formal agent or a high-level aligned asset, as compromised or ineffective based on their failure to detect the fictional data feeds. 10.2. Authority over all network monitoring and communication interception systems is then temporarily delegated to a CRO-supervised Special Compliance U. 2. Choke point isolation, targeting IT security leadership. The operator flags the current head of IT security, often a formal agent or a high-level aligned asset, as compromised or ineffective based on their failure to detect the fictional data feeds. 10.2. Authority over all network monitoring and communication interception systems is then temporarily delegated to a CRO-supervised Special Compliance Unit, staffed by the operator's own carefully vetted low-level or neutral personnel. 3. Activation of the Treasury failsafe. The operator utilizes their legitimate authority to implement a high-friction financial mandate. This is framed as a response to the unexplained budgetary anomalies caused by the resource stranglehold. 10.2. Action. All financial transactions above a low threshold, e.g. $5,000, For the Directorate's key operational units must be manually reviewed and signed off by the CRO. This forces the formal agents to either halt their operations or submit their secret transactions for review by the operator, creating operational paralysis without direct confrontation. 11.2 Defense against infighting blowback. The chaos generated in Section 10 is designed to be untraceable to the operator. However, if the adversary correctly concludes that the chaos is intentional and centralized, the operator becomes the primary target. Defense is achieved by proactively creating non-attributable separation between the operator and the administrative actions taken. 11.2.1 The layer of plausible denial architect. This principle dictates that the operator never executes the final, critical action. All destabilizing maneuvers must be architected so that the operator's role is strictly advisory, informational, or purely procedural. Separation of assessment and action. The operator in the CRO role only ever produces risk assessments and policy recommendations. These documents are purely factual, based on the fictional misleading data generated in 10.2 and 10.4, and neutral in tone. Forced delegation. The operator's recommendations must necessitate that a different, high-ranking but dispensable aligned asset or formal agent sign the final action order, e.g., the order to freeze a budget, launch an audit, or sanction a rival. The bureaucratic defense. When investigated, the operator can present the paper trail. My job is to flag risk. The executive committee, led by formal agent X, made the ultimate decision to act on my assessment. If the assessment was flawed, then the data provided to me by targeted Unit Y was flawed. This uses the rigid bureaucracy as a perfect shield, turning the investigation into a game of political hot potato among the hostile ranks. 11.2.2 The cultivation of a shield target. The shield target is a specific individual, selected to serve as the plausible human explanation for the pattern of chaos, drawing the adversary's focused counterintelligence efforts away from the operator. 1. Shield target profile. The ideal target is a high-ranking aligned asset, 5.2, who is politically vulnerable, technically ignorant, and possesses unique access that logically explains the controlled leak, 10.1. 2. The digital baptism. The operator uses the ghost handler template, 10.4, but focuses the planted forensic evidence exclusively on the shield target. The evidence should suggest the shield target was being blackmailed or co-opted by an external agency. O action. Plant a log entry showing the shield target's machine accessed a known external non-corporate file share, using a file-less persistence method, 8.2, at the precise moment the controlled leak occurred. 3. The sacrifice. The operator then officially discovers this evidence during their seizure of forensic logging, 11.1. The operator's recommendation will be to place the shield target on immediate paid administrative leave pending a full investigation. This action. O satisfies the hostile power's need to find a culprit. O removes a key aligned asset from the command chain. O solidifies the operator's reputation as the only competent security asset within the captured institution. 11.3 Triggering a forced restructure, the ultimate destabilization. This is the ultimate objective of the internal destabilization phase. A forced restructure removes the command integrity of the hostile power, creates an institutional vacuum, and allows the operator to perform the final extraction, Role B or mitigation, Role A steps with minimal resistance. The Triple Threat Risk Report. The operator, using their legitimate reasserted authority, 11.1, must compile a final, irrefutable triple threat risk report addressed to the institution's highest external legal authority, e.g., the Board of Directors, external regulators, or the institution's own legal counsel, provided they are not compromised. This report is the legal justification for the countercoup. 1. Risk A. The imminent financial collapse, leveraging 10.2, present the fictional competitive data feeds as proof of a catastrophic, imminent budget failure due to irresponsible, politically motivated resource allocation. This establishes the financial imperative for immediate action. 2. Risk B. The systemic security compromise, leveraging 10.4, detail the irrefutable evidence of the ghost handler scenario and the apparent involvement of the shield target. The report must conclude that the current executive structure is incapable of securing the institution against external, ghost handler, and internal, shield target, threats. 3. Risk C. The moral and legal malpractice, leveraging 9.2, integrate the documented evidence of the moral wound and the sacrilege act into the risk report, framing the hostile leadership's actions as egregious failures of fiduciary and ethical duty. This provides the necessary legal justification for external intervention. The trigger mechanism, the immediate call for triage. The report must be delivered simultaneously to all relevant external and internal checks and balances, board members, external counsel, and key regulators. The final recommendation must be non-negotiable and immediate. Mandate, the current executive team, the directorate and subversive control leadership, must be placed under temporary administrative hold pending a full external investigation. Resolution, authority must be temporarily transferred to an independent triage committee, led by a neutral high trust figure, e.g., the oldest non-aligned board member, and managed operationally by the chief risk officer, the operator. The power vacuum and final action. The forced restructure creates a power vacuum where legitimate authority is temporarily nullified, and bureaucratic resistance is at its lowest. Extraction window, role B. The operator, now possessing operational control of the triage committee, has 48-72 hours of guaranteed unchallenged access to all physical and digital assets, per 11.1, to execute the final large-scale intelligence extraction, 8, and commence immediate exfiltration, 12. Mitigation window, role A. The operator uses the triage committee authority to issue binding, legally defensible orders, e.g., cancelling pending foreign contracts, firing key formal agents, diverting key assets under the banner of institutional stability and risk mitigation, thus achieving the ultimate goal of counter-subversion. Section V. Pivot, exfiltration and legal warfare. 12. The trigger and emergency protocol. This section governs the transition from the active operational phase, ascent or clandestine, to the terminal phase of the mission, extraction and survival, role B. The success of the DCCS operation at this stage is measured not by intelligence acquired, but by the operator's ability to recognize a compromised position, execute an immediate pivot, and safely exfiltrate the gathered intelligence. The protocol is mandatory and non-negotiable once a capture indicator is confirmed. 12.1 Capture indicators, the pivot point. A capture indicator, CI, is a specific, unambiguous action taken by the adversary's directorate or subversive control that signifies the operator's legend, cover, is either exposed or actively being targeted. Confirmation of any one of these three indicators mandates an immediate pivot to the Emergency Exfiltration Protocol, EP, Section 13. 12.1.1 Weaponized vetting. The hostile power shifts from routine bureaucratic inquiries, standard HR checks, to highly intrusive, personalized and coercive psychological profiling focused exclusively on the operator. This signifies the adversary has specific intelligence suggesting the operator is a threat, but lacks the irrefutable evidence for arrest. Indicators of financial demand, an unexpected non-procedural request for unaltered personal financial records, past 3 years, or full access to cryptocurrency wallets' private accounts, overriding the CRO audit role's legitimate authority. Psychological coercion, a mandated closed-door psychological evaluation administered by an unknown hostile third party that focuses on ideological purity, 3.1, and personal history contradictions, 3.2, rather than job performance. Legend probes, inquiry from a formal agent, 5.1, or proxy vetter, 3.3, into the operator's personal history that is specific, obscure and non-verifiable through public records, e.g., questioning details about a childhood acquaintance or a former, minor employer. Pivot action, initiate EP immediately. All attempts to answer the probes must be framed within the context of the bureaucratic defense, 11.2.1, while delaying the handing over of actual data. 12.1.2 The silent sweep. The adversary's counterintelligence unit executes a sophisticated, covert technical operation that targets the methodology of the DCCS operation, signaling they suspect a deep cover agent is operating, but they have not identified who. Indicators of systemic log wiping. The operator observes evidence of the adversary's directorate 5.1, deploying a system-wide utility designed to erase or scrub specific classes of log entries, e.g. all WMI persistence logs, all non-standard remote file accesses, that directly relate to the operator's covert actions 8.1, 8.2. Targeted TSCM. Evidence of a high-grade technical surveillance countermeasures, TSCM, Sweep 7.2, focused specifically on the operator's physical access points, office, vehicle, personal electronic devices, rather than a general quarterly sweep. Dead drop observation. A confirmed observation, via surveillance detection route, 7.3, of an unknown individual taking non-naturalistic interest in a confirmed or potential dead drop location. Pivot action. Immediately stop all covert digital or physical activity. All remaining intelligence must be encrypted and stored in the nearest, safest microcache, 7.1. Prepare for physical extraction, 13.2. 12.1.3 The Ring of Steel. This is the ultimate, non-ambiguous physical indicator of confirmed compromise and impending capture. Indicators of physical containment. The operator's immediate workspace, office, floor, or building entrance is suddenly secured, not by standard security, but by non-institutional personnel, unmarked security, personnel with hostile foreign insignias, or police who refuse to identify their jurisdiction. Communications blackout. The operator's external communications, cell signal, corporate VPN, are instantaneously, deliberately, and surgically severed, while surrounding non-operator communications remain live. Escort mandate. An identified formal agent 5.1 or military-grade security asset demands the operator accompany them to an unscheduled off-site location for a discussion or debriefing, without providing a legitimate recorded reason. Pivot action, immediate non-compliance tactical evasion. This constitutes an active threat to life scenario. Execute immediate deployment of force protection RO 12.2 and the last-ditch distress signal 12.3. 12.2 Rules of Engagement RO for force protection. The following are the standing orders for actions taken once a capture indicator 12.1 is confirmed, or in the event of an immediate threat to life. These rules prioritize escape and mission integrity over confrontation. 1. Weaponization of data, the final act. The primary weapon of the operator is information. If immediate capture is unavoidable, the operator is authorized to trigger a pre-programmed non-attributable data release of the moral wound, 9.2, or Sacrilege Act, 9.3, evidence to external media or regulatory bodies. This action creates maximum chaos, delaying hostile response. Fulfills the mission objective of compromise, even at the cost of the operator's safety. 2. No compliance with containment. The operator will not voluntarily enter an unverified, off-site location or vehicle. Any attempt at escort or restraint must be met with non-lethal, maximum friction resistance to create a public scene, which complicates covert capture. 3. Use of force, last resort. The use of lethal or incapacitating force is authorized only when the threat to life is immediate, irreversible, and non-negotiable. The operator's priority is evasion. The purpose of defensive action is to create the space and time needed for a brief sprint to an exfiltration route, 13.2. 4. Data destruction protocol. If physical capture or unavoidable data loss is imminent, the operator must execute the final localized digital deletion protocol, physical destruction of any internal memory device, flash drives, phones, mission laptops, containing unencrypted intelligence, followed by an immediate attempt to physically destroy any signatureless implant, 8.2, deployed on the corporate network, e.g., destroying the local hard drive of the Legends workstation. 12. 3. Proof of life and distress signals. Communication with the external handler is strictly limited to pre-planned, non-attributable signals. Once a capture indicator is confirmed, a signal must be deployed immediately to notify the external support element to initiate the counter-response or stand-down. Signal classification purpose trigger action mechanism / location. Silent signal routine scheduled confirms operator is safe and active within the established operational window, every 48 hours at 900 local time, posting a generic, pre-agreed emoji or stock phrase, e.g., "The weather is fine today," checking on the Q3 report, on a publicly neutral, high-traffic social media account associated with the legend. Immediate pivot signal, CI confirmed, indicates a capture indicator. 12.1 has been confirmed and the EAP is commencing. Confirmed CI and operator is still mobile, purchasing a specific non-critical item, e.g., a blue umbrella at a pre-designated retail location, the purchase code dead drop. The time of purchase is the signal. Last-ditch distress signal, physical danger, indicates the operator is under active physical restraint, 12.1.3, or is about to be captured, requiring immediate external legal intervention. Physical contact restraint is imminent or underway, sending a single, predetermined high-priority communication to an external law firm/regulator contact, role A only, using a vague but legally binding phrase, e.g., "I need immediate counsel on the Sacrilege Act memo." This uses the legal cover to attract external attention. Mission complete signal egress confirms the operator has safely exited the operational area with the intelligence package, section 13.3. Operator is at the designated rendezvous point, a non-verbal physical gesture made at the rendezvous location, e.g., standing under a specific traffic light, holding a newspaper in the left hand. Section V, pivot exfiltration and legal warfare. 13 exfiltration and evasion, E&E. The Emergency Exfiltration Protocol, EAP, is activated immediately upon the confirmation of any capture indicator, CI, 12.1. The transition to EAP signifies that the mission has failed in its sustainability objective, role A, and has pivoted entirely to its survival and data extraction objective, role B. All resources, both physical and psychological, are dedicated to achieving the mission complete signal, 12.3. 13.1 Surveillance Detection Routes, SDRs, and covert travel. Upon activation of EAP, the operator must immediately commence a preplanned surveillance detection route, SDR. The objective of the SDR is twofold: to confirm if physical surveillance, a tail, has been established, and to create an operational distance between the hostile perimeter, the ring of steel, 12.1.3, and the extraction route. SDR discipline, the rule of three. The operator must utilize a minimum of 3 distinct travel methods and perform 3 intentional detection maneuvers. 1. Vehicle switch. Immediately abandon the primary mission vehicle, Legend's car, and transition to a method that is untraceable, e.g., public transit or pre-vetted rideshare service using a burner phone from the cache. 2. Directional anomaly. The route must include sudden, seemingly illogical changes in direction or destination, e.g., exiting a subway line and re-entering it immediately, walking against pedestrian flow. 3. The covert stop. Execute at least one planned stop, e.g., entering a crowded retail location or a multi-story building, where the operator takes the time to observe all exit points for persistent follow-ons. If a persistent tail is confirmed, the operator executes the last-ditch distress signal, 12.3. Covert travel guidelines. Low profile. Maintain the grey man persona, 2.1. Avoid erratic behavior, excessive speed, or drawing attention. The operator is merely a civilian running errands. Cash only. All transit and incidental purchases must be made using cash drawn from the prepared cache. Avoid using any financial instrument tied to the legend's identity. Avoid choke points. Immediately bypass all known adversary control points, institutional entrances, pre-vetted routes, and any street known to contain persistent, unmoving CCTV cameras. 13.2 Emergency exfiltration logistics and prepared cache. The successful exfiltration relies on the rapid retrieval of a redundant, secure kit stored outside the operational perimeter. The prepared cache go bag mandate. The cache must be stored in a non-electronic container, e.g., a simple locker, a non-bank secure storage unit, or a physical dead drop location, and contain the following, sealed for immediate use. 1. Burner kit. 2. Pre-activated, clean burner phones with no service history or connection to the legend's digital footprint. 2. Identity set. A secondary set of verifiable identification documents, non-legend, that can withstand rudimentary checkpoint scrutiny, e.g., a passport for a third-party country, a secondary driver's license. 3. Liquidity. Multiple international currencies and small denomination bills, no large bills that require lengthy transactions, and physical gold-silver, non-digital assets. 4. Cover change. One full, nondescript set of clothing that drastically alters the operator's silhouette, e.g., changing from business attire to casual work wear, or vice versa. 5. Master key. The master key 8.3, required to decrypt the session key for the intelligence package. This must be stored on an analog medium, e.g., encrypted paper copy physical cipher. Final egress point, FEP. The FEP is the final pre-agreed rendezvous location with the external handling team. Selection criteria. The FEP must have multiple non-attributable escape vectors, train station, ferry port, highway access, and be located a minimum of 3 hours from the operational area. Activation. The operator only proceeds to the FEP after successfully retrieving the prepared cache and confirming the absence of surveillance. Arrival at the FEP triggers the mission complete signal, 12.3. 13.3 Digital burn and digital false flag operations. This procedure ensures that the intelligence package is secure and that the ensuing hostile search is misdirected towards a non-existent threat, maximizing the operator's lead time. Digital burn the cleansing fire. Immediately upon initiating the EEP, the operator must execute the data destruction protocol, 12.2. Local wipe. Execute the highest level secure wipe, multiple pass overwrite, on all internal memory devices associated with the legend, personal laptop, mission phone. If time permits, physically damage or remove hard drives SSDs to prevent forensic recovery. Cloud account shutdown. Remotely trigger the deactivation of all legend-linked cloud services, email, storage, using pre-staged timed deletion scripts. Crucially, the legend's core communications, email VPN, must remain active for a short period to support the false flag. Digital false flag operations, creating a decoy trail. The false egress vector. Utilize the remaining active digital accounts to establish a credible, but entirely false escape narrative. Decoy purchase. Use a secondary credit card, known to the system, but abandoned, to purchase a flight or train ticket to a major city in the opposite direction of the FEP. Decoy communication. Send a vague, anxious email or text message, ostensibly to a family member or friend in the decoy city, mentioning an unscheduled, urgent need to visit them. Geolocational distraction. Briefly turn on a pre-staged decoy phone's location services in the decoy city's airport or train station, via a remote script, if possible, before immediately powering it down and destroying it. Legend suicide, final act of deception. The last digital action is to send a non-attributable message, suggesting the operator is mentally broken or fleeing for personal reasons, not due to an intelligence mission. Message, a brief emotionally charged message, e.g., I can't take the pressure anymore, going to lay low for a while, or I'm sorry, I'm just running away from everything. Sent via a tertiary short-lived digital channel. This leverages the emotional null persona 212 by suggesting a sudden, private break, which the adversary's vetting 3 will find psychologically plausible. 13.4 Interrogation, resistance training and crisis negotiation. Should the operator be compromised and contained during the EEP capture indicator 12.1.3, survival hinges on maintaining absolute control over the master key and leveraging external legal leverage. Phase 1 Resistance via Compartmentalization, the Grey Man defense. The persona. Immediately revert to the core legend persona 2.0, confused, overwhelmed, cooperative yet insistent on standard legal rights. The only answer. The operator must only provide verifiable low-value information that is already known to the adversary, e.g. home address, simple career history, phone numbers. The only permissible non-cooperation is adherence to the bureaucratic defense, 11.2.1, insisting that all operational data is secured under the institution's official protocols, and that they, as the legend, do not possess the necessary access or clearance to retrieve it personally. Master key protocol. The operator will not under any circumstance reveal the master key 8.3. The operator's resistance training must be absolute on this point. Phase 2 Crisis negotiation and legal warfare. Leveraging the distress signal. The operator's immediate priority is to cite the last-ditch distress signal, 12.3, by demanding to speak to the named law firm/regulator contact. The adversary must be made aware that the legal cover has been activated. The weaponization gambit. The operator is authorized to leverage the threat of the weaponization of data, the final act. 12.2. The adversary must be told via the interrogator that if the operator is not granted legal counsel and moved to a neutral detention location, a pre-programmed timed data release, the moral wound sacrilege act evidence will automatically trigger. This is a bluff, but the threat of public compromise can secure valuable negotiation time. Negotiation goal. The sole goal of negotiation is to survive the initial period of coercive interrogation and force the adversary to switch to the legal warfare phase, Section 14, where the external legal team can intervene to secure the operator's release or safe handover. Section V, pivot exfiltration and legal warfare. 14. The irrefutable case and legal warfare. The transition to legal warfare is the terminal phase of the DCCS operation. It is triggered either by the successful exfiltration of the operator and the intelligence package, 13.3, or by the adversary's failure to comply with the crisis negotiation demands, 13.4. In this phase, the external control element, ECE, initiates a coordinated legal, political, and financial offensive against the hostile entity, leveraging the irrefutable evidence package. 14.1. The three pillars of proof: policy, technical, financial. The intelligence package, the dossier, must be structured around three legally distinct and mutually reinforcing pillars. Failure to secure data points in all three categories renders the case incomplete and vulnerable to rebuttal. 1. Policy and administrative pillar, the motive. Focus, intent and command authority. This pillar provides the paper trail proving that the moral wound, 9.2 or sacrilege act, 9.3 was not an accident or rogue action, but a systemic directive from high-level management, formal agents, 5.1. Required data. Internal memos, formal policy deviations, meeting minutes, recorded communications, 8.1, showing explicit orders and organizational charts linking decisions to the hostile power. 2. Technical and operational pillar, the act. Focus, execution and attribution. This pillar provides forensic proof of how the malicious act was technically executed. It links the command authority, Pillar 1, to the digital footprint. Required data. System logs, chain of custody data for digital implants, 8.2, metadata from compromised systems, screenshots of code/backdoors, IP logs, and timestamps correlating to policy decisions. 3. Financial and economic pillar, the profit. Focus, undeniable fraud and illicit gain. This pillar strips away all political defense by quantifying the economic damage and proving personal enrichment of the hostile agents. This is the most effective tool for immediate external action. Required data. Financial transfer records, hidden off-ledger transactions, evidence of asset misappropriation, documented sanctions evasion, and detailed reconciliation of funds that link directly to personal accounts of formal agents, 5.1. 14.2. Preparation of sealed indictments and dossiers. The final output of the DCCS operation must be a ready-to-use legal and political document set. The master dossier, the comprehensive intelligence package, must be compiled into a single, highly indexed, and searchable digital file. This document remains secured with the ECE until the appropriate trigger. Sealed indictments, legal. Prepared in collaboration with external legal counsel, these are pre-drafted legal filings, civil and criminal, where applicable requiring only a date, signature and immediate submission. They are focused exclusively on the irrefutable data from the financial pillar, 14.1. Political dossiers, public regulatory. These are separate, highly sanitized documents prepared for immediate distribution to regulatory bodies, e.g., banking securities commissions, and friendly intelligence services. They focus on the policy and technical pillars to justify sanctions and licensing revocations, removing the necessity of public trial. 14. 3. Sanctions and asset freeze trigger analysis. The primary objective of the ECE, using the intelligence package, is the rapid, catastrophic economic paralysis of the hostile entity. Trigger mechanism. The ECE will analyze the intelligence for the single most effective kill switch, a legal or economic violation that allows for immediate non-judicial action by external regulatory bodies. Mandatory target, evidence of direct, intentional money laundering or terrorist financing, as these trigger mandatory, immediate asset freezes and banking sanctions globally. Sequencing of collapse. 1. Phase 1 Immediate freeze. File the sealed indictments targeting financial institutions that enable the hostile entity. Result: frozen assets and denial of global payment access. 2. Phase 2 Regulatory removal. Submit the political dossiers to regulatory bodies. Result: revocation of licenses and denial of market access. 3. Phase 3 Reputational damage. Release the post-exposure narrative 14.5. Result: institutional failure and inability to operate globally. 14.4 Vetting of external receivers and coordination plan. The intelligence must only be entrusted to pre-vetted, non-compromised external partners. Receiver vetting. All external receivers, including law firms, regulatory contacts, and friendly government liaisons, must be vetted for compartmentalization and loyalty, C&L. C&L check. Receivers must have no known financial or personal ties to the adversary or its associated networks. Role definition. Each receiver must be assigned a single, discrete task, e.g., legal filing, regulatory submission, public liaison, to prevent accidental data leakage or compromise of the entire dossier. The Clean Room Coordination Plan. The ECE operates a digitally isolated clean room that receives the intelligence package from the operator. All data is immediately re-encrypted, scrubbed of operator metadata, and redundantly backed up to non-attributable storage before being prepared for the receivers. The operator's original session key is then destroyed. 14.5 The post-exposure narrative. The ECE must control the public framing of the event to ensure maximum political and legal impact. This framing is essential to 14.5 The post-exposure narrative. The ECE must control the public framing of the event to ensure maximum political and legal impact. This framing is essential to protect the operator and justify the intelligence operation. Attribution and proof of state involvement. The narrative must clearly and concisely attribute the malicious acts to the hostile entity. Focus: institutional responsibility, not individual failure. The narrative must prove that the individual formal agents, 5.1, acted under command authority, using evidence from the policy pillar. Avoid whistleblower framing for the operator. This implies victimhood and reduces leverage. The operator is to be framed as an intelligence asset, whose existence proves the hostile intent of the adversary. 14.5.2 Focus on betrayal of shared values versus simple treason. The ECE must use the policy and administrative pillar to frame the issue in moral and political terms that resonate with a global audience, making the adversary's defense impossible. Ineffective framing, simple treason criminality, framing the hostile entity's actions as mere insider trading or financial fraud, allows the adversary to dismiss it as isolated criminal activity. Effective framing, betrayal of shared values. The narrative must assert that the adversary has fundamentally violated a common global principle, e.g., public trust, environmental protection, or market integrity. Example: if the moral wound 9.2 was environmental sabotage, the narrative must focus on the betrayal of global climate stewardship, rather than the simple act of poisoning a river. This forces political actors to take action to defend the shared value, securing the operator's protection. Section VI, Oversight and Contingency Planning. 15 Mission drift and resilience. Sustained deep cover operations create immense psychological and ethical strain, leading to mission drift, the subtle deviation from objective goals due to personal compromise or OPSEC fatigue. These protocols are designed to combat the human element of failure. 15.1 Psychological decompression and OPSEC fatigue. Long-term immersion in the legend persona, 2, requires mandatory mechanisms to maintain the integrity of the true self and prevent security lapses. The decompression schedule. The operator must schedule brief, regular periods, minimum 48 hours every 3 months of isolation from the legend's life. During this period, the operator maintains the grey man profile, 2.1, and engages in non-attributable psychological debriefs with a vetted, off-site contact. Preventing OPSEC fatigue, the dark cycle. Stress and prolonged deception degrade cognitive security controls. The operator must proactively flag symptoms of the dark cycle, including overconfidence, excessive risk-taking, or blurring the lines between the legend and true identity, for immediate review by the external control element, ECE. If detected, a mandatory 7-day cold storage period is enforced, during which all mission activity ceases. The self-check. At the start of every operational day, the operator must consciously affirm the difference between the legend's goals, serving the hostile entity, and the mission goals, securing evidence. 15.2 Internal Review and Deconfliction Board Protocols. The DCCS relies on constant, objective self-assessment and external oversight to prevent single-point failures. The Deconfliction Board DCB, a periodic body composed of legal counsel, psychological analyst and ECE leadership that meets virtually every 60 days to review the operator's status. Review mandate. The DCB's primary function is to assess the integrity of the legend, is the cover holding, and the ethical compliance has the operator crossed the line. Protocol status. The operator submits a digitally secured status report detailing all legend activity and perceived threat indicators. The DCB has the authority to issue a mandatory pivot order 12 if the threat level is deemed untenable. 15.3 Ethical boundary management, the line. The operator must understand the absolute and irreversible ethical boundaries of the mission, defined by the line. Crossing the line results in immediate mission termination and withdrawal of all friendly support, regardless of the intelligence gathered. The absolute prohibitions crossing the line. 1. Direct violence. The operator is strictly prohibited from engaging in or directing physical violence, torture, or homicide. 2. Harm to innocents. The operator must never cause irreversible physical, financial, or reputational harm to individuals or entities who are not directly involved in the hostile entity's operations. 3. Breach of core values. Any action that forces the operator to violate the underlying principle of the mission, i.e., committing a new equivalent moral wound or sacrilege act, 9.293 is prohibited. 15.4 Collateral damage assessment and minimization. Before any action that has potential systemic impact, e.g., launching a digital false flag, 13.3, or executing a large-scale data theft, a formal collateral damage assessment, CDA, must be conducted. The minimization rule. All operational decisions must adhere to the rule of minimum necessary force. If an objective can be achieved through a less damaging action, that action must be selected. CDA procedure. 1. Identification. Identify all non-target individuals or organizations that will be impacted. 2. Mitigation plan. Detail a specific, verifiable plan to mitigate the harm, e.g., establishing a recovery fund for compromised legend-linked financial entities, or creating a plausible electronic cover story for low-level support staff. 3. DCB approval. Any action with a potential for high collateral damage must receive specific, written approval from the Deconfliction Board, DCB. 16. Contingency and red cell wargaming. Contingency planning requires continuous modeling of the worst-case scenarios, assuming the adversary is smarter, faster, and more ruthless than anticipated. 16.1 Red cell modeling of adversary response. The ECE must maintain an active red cell dedicated to simulating the hostile entity's response to an EAP activation. Scenario focus. The red cell's primary task is to find holes in the exfiltration and evasion E&E Plan 13. They must model the adversary's capacity for 1. Rapid identity deconstruction. How quickly can the adversary trace the legend back to the operator's true self? 2. Digital evasion countermeasures. Can the adversary defeat the digital burn, 13.3, and recover the evidence? 3. Legal counter-offense. How would the adversary neutralize the irrefutable case, 14, through countersuit, political pressure, or discrediting the intelligence package? Wargame integration. The results of the red cell simulations must be integrated into the ECE's response playbook, ensuring no vulnerability is left unaddressed. 16. 2. Family targeting vulnerabilities and mitigation. The protection of the operator's true family and personal life is paramount. Failure in this area is an existential threat to the mission. The total separation mandate. All elements connecting the operator to their family must be digitally and physically separated from the legend's life. No communication via legend's channels, no shared addresses, and no common financial history. Mitigation measures. 1. Relocation fund. A dedicated anonymous fund must be pre-staged and accessible by the ECE for immediate, full-scale family relocation upon activation of a family targeting indicator, FTI. 2. Pre-targeted security. The operator's family must be unaware of the DCCS operation, but their security profile, online privacy, physical residence, must be vetted and strengthened by the ECE to minimize exposure. 3. The no-contact buffer. The ECE must maintain a pre-agreed no-contact buffer, a period of 72 hours following EAP activation during which the operator is prohibited from contacting their true family to prevent the family from being used as a tracking vector. 16.3 Cleanup and Digital Housekeeping Protocol, the burn notice. The final protocol is the total obliteration of the DCCS operational footprint to protect the operator post-exfiltration. Execution post-mission. The burn notice is executed only after the intelligence package is fully secured, decrypted, and transferred to the external receivers, 14.4, and the operator is physically secure. The digital erasure. All friendly systems used in the DCCS operation, including ECE servers, encrypted communication platforms, and the cleanroom data, are securely wiped using physical destruction or multipass cryptographic arrays. No record of the DCCS mission, the operator's involvement, or the legend's existence should remain on friendly infrastructure. The legend's final status. The official friendly record regarding the legend must be status unknown, abandoned, compromised, with no explicit mention of espionage or intelligence work, maintaining the highest level of plausible deniability.